David, welcome to Digital Transformation Bite Size. This is a series where I interview experts and thought leaders in the high and emerging technology space. Welcome today, sir.
Thanks very much, Kieran. Great to be here.
For those individuals who don't know you, David, would you mind telling us a little bit more about you and the work that you do?
Sure. So I'm the founder of a company called Sentireal, and we create software and digital media for enterprise training in a variety of different industry verticals. And this training uses advanced 3D display technologies, including virtual, augmented, and mixed reality.
I'm hearing a lot of terms these days around this industry, AR and VR and MR, but I'm not entirely sure I understand the differences between each. Would you mind giving us what I would describe as a non-technology English description of them so that the audience can understand a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So I made the point actually as an industry, we haven't always been very helpful in that regard, and that different people and organizations have sometimes used these terms slightly differently. So I'll start possibly with the easiest of the three, which is virtual reality. And in some senses, that is a polar opposite of the reality that we experience every day. So with virtual reality, I sometimes describe that as if you imagine a computer game or PlayStation game and imagine being placed inside that experience so that it envelops you, and in 3 dimensions, you can interact with the digital objects or the digital people or characters within that. In an entirely computer generated world, you are shut off, your senses are shut off from the physical world around you, and you're placed inside this 3-dimensional computer-generated environment. So that's essentially virtual reality. Augmented reality is a different type of experience. You continue to see and experience the real world around you, but a device, and that could be a smartphone or a tablet or a pair of smart glasses, can, if you like, project or inject computer-generated information or 3D objects realistically into your view of the real world. So the classic example of this, perhaps, is something like the IKEA furniture app, where you've an empty corner in your room and you wonder what a certain piece of IKEA furniture might look in that. So you hold up a tablet or look through the smart glasses, and a digital 3D replica of that product appears realistically in that physical space. That would be a fairly classical augmented reality application. Mixed reality is probably the toughest of the three, and it's probably the most kind of amorphous definition. But nowadays, that tends to mean experience like augmented reality, but taken a step further. So a more sophisticated interactions possible between the real world and the virtual objects. So an example I often give is augmented reality could make a digital vase appear on my desk in front of me. Mixed reality would let me pick up that digital vase, drop it onto the physical floor, and watch it smash. So a more sophisticated interaction that respects things like gravity and physics and so on.
I'm not too sure since lockdown that anybody has any space left in their house.
Well, actually, there is a form of augmented reality where it actually takes things away from the real world environment. Maybe that would be
I'm not keener. What is the best use you've seen of this technology? Because I've watched TV shows showing me the police going into dangerous situations.
Yes.
I've watched firefighters go into dangerous situations, and tons more. What's the best business use you've seen of each of those technologies?
Yes, and I would probably say they've probably got a few examples across different industries. I mean, certainly the ones you've quoted there are really great examples in I guess the training type of arena, which is where we operate, and particularly safety critical training, where it's physically dangerous and logistically and financially expensive to do that training physically. So those are great examples. I mean, other areas, one that stands out to me, I guess, is very interesting is the whole concept of digital twins, which I'm sure you talked about on your channel many times. So the concept of building very accurate digital replicas of real world plant or equipment, in terms of being able to analyze and carry out what if scenarios with that. A few things that have come out recently have been where actually entire cities have now been created as a digital twin, and technologies like AR and VR have been used to visualize the digital half of those twins, for things like facilities planning, real estate, at maybe council or governmental level. But the sheer scale of these, where now like the entire city of Shanghai or Helsinki has been created in this way, is very impressive. I think medical and healthcare is another big area for us, and it's a big area where there's been a lot of innovation carried out, and that's both on the ability to simulate things in virtual reality on the either the diagnosis or the training side, but even as a therapeutic medium as well. Now, actually, a lot of virtual augmented reality experiences are now being used, kind of for health and therapeutic purposes as well too, which is another really interesting space.
How do you build a business case for AR, VR, or MR?
I think the main advice would be not to be technology led. I think this probably carries through for a lot of emerging tech. I think the approach not to take is to buy a load of headsets or lots of hardware and then try and figure out well, what apps can we use with this, or how does this fit within our organization. What we've found is a much better approach is essentially for organizations to look at their existing activities and processes, to think how can this, or whereabouts in our organization can this best add value or create a much more sophisticated or rewarding experience. We kind of think looking at it from a kind of process and activity point of view, working out where you want to or where you think this form of media can add value, and then look at what collection of technology do we need to deliver that is probably the right order to go about that. And from that, then you can usually work out things like return on investment and KPIs relatively easily, and that's what you use to build the business case, obviously back into the business in terms of investing in the tech.
So why would I use that technology? Like, I've read a little bit that says, a more immersive experience, for example, in the training industry encourages folks to remember what they've learned a little bit longer. Exactly. Is it that, or is it something else?
That's certainly part of it. I guess that gets back to some of the KPIs or return on investment type measurements. For example, for us in training, it would be around how does this technology make people learn faster? How does it make them increase skill levels to a higher degree than they might otherwise be able to achieve if they were using a different form of digital media to do this training? Certainly, engagement is a huge aspect as well. So because these technologies are inherently three-dimensional and very, very highly interactive, for us, it would be learning by doing rather than learning by watching. And obviously, there's a ton of studies that indicate that for many people, that's a preferred mode. The engaging way that AR and VR can present content, and the fact that it allows the people who are experiencing it to interact with it in so many different and engaging ways, very often that's what provides the extra value add to the experience.
Is that why Microsoft and Snapchat and everyone else are increasingly investing in this technology, or what's the reason they're putting their hard-earned billions into play?
That's certainly part of it, and another sort of a very important aspect behind that is obviously we're very much a data-driven world these days, and one of the other aspects of this kind of type of medium and the technology that goes along with it is that it's a very rich source of data gathering and analysis and gaining insights into the experiences that are delivered, but also the obviously the people who are taking part in those experiences and using that tech.
And what are the data points that they're trying to mine, David? Obviously, something consumer related if it's Microsoft and Facebook and everyone else. But what is it?
Yeah, well, certainly in those two examples, that would be true. There would be other companies who specialize a little bit more on supplying this tech purely into the enterprise, in which case the metrics might be slightly different. But yes, you're right. In terms of on the consumer side, which was probably where it was particularly Facebook are concentrating all their efforts into, a lot of it is around things like gathering reactions to brands, sentiment analysis, these kind of things. The nature of the tech allows very rich and diverse data to be gathered on how a person reacts to the content that's presented to them. So obviously that brings great insight, particularly from a marketing or a brand reaction point of view as well.
Are there any risks here in the AR, VR, MR world that we're giving away a little bit too much data, or how have those been accounted for from an ethical perspective?
Yeah, I mean it's a delicate balance, as it is in with many other forms of tech that promote the ability to to gather this data. I think a lot of that certainly there's a lot of discussion around data gathering and data privacy, around in terms of the transparency or making sure that the transparency from the vendors on that who are producing this type of equipment is kept at a reasonable level. Like other areas, I think many people are arriving at a kind of risk reward type of balance between that in terms of how much and what type of information they feel confident donating, if you like, in return for these experiences. And again, that varies quite a lot across different use cases. Obviously the attitude in consumer space, which is maybe a bit more oriented towards the kind of retail or entertainment side, might be different than, say, a VR experience in the medical or healthcare side, which is perhaps gathering data on the physical or mental health of a person. Those are maybe two different questions that are being asked around those two different cases because of the perceived value of the data that's been given up.
Do you see a period of time when employers will have their data scientists, they'll have their automation staff, they'll have their HR staff, finance staff, and their AR, VR, MR staff? Or do you think this is a technology that really needs to be handled by a third-party expert group?
It's interesting because that's another area that's changing quite rapidly, and it's kind of it's an area where I'm probably personally spending most of my time recently. So probably worth saying to start with that the most popular ways of authoring or creating these experiences currently, from a skill set point of view, it's very akin to the skill sets required to create computer games. So you're looking for people who have those skills and the ability to drive the development software, the specific development software that's used to create computer games. So that's a fairly specialist resource, and may well be a resource that's not present in many of the organizations, obviously, who want to start getting involved in using AR, VR, or MR as part of their operations. So certainly historically, particularly for initial or smaller scale applications, the outsourcing model has certainly ruled the roost and continues to do so. But one of the things that is starting to come around now is new pieces of software, new platforms coming out to make it easier for people who are not coming from that computer games development background to create this these type of immersive experiences. So I guess the holy grail is subject matter expert sitting in a business somewhere can create one of these experiences as easy as putting together a few PowerPoint slides. That's kind of where that's the trajectory that we're aiming towards. Or in our case, it could be a subject matter expert who's used to creating learning or training material using Premiere Pro or Adobe products or Photoshop, can access a tool that feels as familiar to them as that, but create VR through that.
David, for those who want to find out a little bit more about you and what you do, how would they connect with you?
Number of ways. Very active on LinkedIn, so that's probably one of the easiest ways to track me down. So David Trainor, founder at Sentireal. You'll hopefully come across me that way. Happy to connect by email, david.trainor@sentireal.com. Active on Twitter as well. So same search terms should find me should find me on there. But very happy to connect with anyone who wants to find out more about the industry or any specific aspects of what we've talked about today.
Yeah. I was waiting for you to add in there LinkedIn, email, phone number, and then virtual reality address as well. So maybe we will see that in the future. Look, I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for coming on Digital Transformation Bite Size. I wish you and the company every success. It's a fascinating space where we're seeing more and more investment and more people coming in. I really think this is a technology that, to use the word immersive and adding a real experience on top, where that's done beautifully and frictionlessly as part of the journey, then it's an amazing place to actually get. I would recommend it to companies. Look, be safe, be good, and I'll see you very, very soon.
That's great. Thanks very much, Kieran. Good to talk to you.